back to the channel. Today we're not in my bee yard, as you can tell. We are on a field trip. Now, the reason we are here is because I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've been doing this winter. Now, you know that I was going to have a shop project coming up, and I haven't shown you what that shop project is, but today I'm going to show you what that shop project is. But first, let me give you a little bit of background information. Why we're here. Why am I standing in Vino Farm's bee yard? Jim put a lot of work into this bee yard. Now, this is not what it looks like now. This is what it used to look like. And it was very inspiring then, and it's very inspiring now. But the reason that I'm here is because, first and foremost, I want to let you know that I've been inspired by Vino Farms and Jim over there since the very first video that I saw. He's the reason that I'm a beekeeper today. I got to watch him go through the process, and in doing so, he taught me a lot. And chances are, if you're a new beekeeper and you started beekeeping in the last 4 or 5 years, you've found Vino Farm's channel and you've learned a lot of what you need to know to be a beekeeper right here in this bee yard. That is up until last year when he lost all of his hives, which was a sad day for him and a sad day for all of us, quite honestly. But from that, the phoenix rises out of the ashes, and he certainly did. He came up with the bee barn, and it's a better way to keep bees, in my opinion. Now, I'm not poo-pooing the Langstroth. I have them, I still use them. I'll still use them up the street, and I'll probably have a couple of them laying around the bee yard here when I'm all done building my bee barns. But what he made there made a lot of sense to me. The fact that he's got a deep and a medium together, and it gives the bees the opportunity to make the brood nest in a way that the bees would want to make the brood nest really made sense to me. See, Jim thought about, okay, not only what would be better for him, he thought about what would be better for the bees. And I, deciding to do this, thought about the same thing. What would be better for me and what would be better for the bees? Now, of course, I put myself first there, not really. I do care about the bees, and I do want to have the bees in a great environment. You know that by the way that I keep my hives now. They're heated and they're cooled in the summertime, and I really like to take care of my bees. I see them more as pets than bees, I guess, because this is just a hobby operation here. But Jim thought about what would the bees do if the bees could build their perfect brood nest, and they could build it in space without gravity, without having to hook onto anything. What would they do? They would build a sphere, and that made a lot of sense to me. The brood nest in the middle, the resources on the outside, because if you look at a frame of bees, it looks like that's what they're trying to do. They just don't have the room to do it. So the bee barn gives them the opportunity to do that by giving them the extra deep frames. Now, another thing that drew me toward the bee barn is I'm getting older and my back hurts, and it's hard for me to inspect the bottom boxes. I mean, after a full day out there, I'll come back into the house and my back is just killing me, let me tell you. But the fact that I can now do it at waist level, that is going to be a game changer for me. So with all of that said, let's take a look at how I built my bee barn, and then we'll come back here and take a look at my bee barn. here it is, my version of the Vino Farm bee barn. Now, mine isn't exactly like the ones that Jim built in Massachusetts, and there's a reason for that. When he built his bee barns, he had a very specific goal in mind, and that goal was to protect his bees from the harsh winters in Massachusetts. Now, my winters aren't that harsh, it gets cold, but my hives are also heated, so I didn't have to worry about that. And yes, there are a heating box at the bottom of this hive, so this hive will be heated. But like him trying to protect his bees from what he needed to protect them from, I have to protect my bees from what I need to protect them from. And for me, that is hive pests. So I've got an active hive pest prevention system built into this hive, and I'll show you what those are. My two biggest pests here are the hive beetles, and we all know about that, and ants. We know about that as well. I've had bees actually abscond because of the ants. So with this hive, I am going to be using the Guardian again this year, just like we did this last year, but this time, this Guardian is the only way in and out of this hive. We are going to know for sure this year if this Guardian will protect a hive from hive beetles, because if they get into this hive through that Guardian, we know that that's how they came in. And with the Guardian, I've also built on my 3D printer both an awning to keep the water off of the entrance there, and some entrance reducers for the Guardian. It's something that Guardian doesn't sell with their reducers, which is a shame, so I built my own. This will allow me to protect my bees from both a robbing situation and cold weather. I can shut it off completely, or I can put a smaller one in here and actually provide a space that's just basically 2 bees wide. And that's what I've got running on the hives right now. Now, the next thing that I've done in my active pest control management system is I've built ant moats directly into the legs. Now, if you've seen any of my videos, I have little ant moats, which basically are oil traps, underneath the hive on each one of these hive stands here to prevent the ants from getting up into the hive, because I have dealt with an absconding beehive situation before where the ants completely took over a hive. I'm going to prevent that on this hive specifically with this ant moat. And basically I've printed this on my 3D printer, and what this will do is I will fill this bottom moat with oil. This top of this roof is designed to keep the rain from getting into the oil and fouling the oil, but now an ant cannot crawl from the ground up into the hive because they cannot get past the ant moat. All right, so the way that I approached this hive was a little bit differently when you get to the back of the hive. Now, let's talk about my current configuration with my current hives right now. We all know that I heat my beehives, and in order for me to do that, every fall I've got to strip my beehives down, put a heat box on the hive stand, put a diffuser board on top of that, put the screen bottom board on top of the diffuser board, and then rebuild my hives and seal them up airtight in order to maintain the temperature inside that box. This hive does the same thing, and it does have a screen bottom board. The screen bottom board is just not exposed to the outside, so that I don't have to worry about ants and or hive beetles getting up through the screen bottom board like I've had to worry about with my other hives. So let me show you how this works. Now, the screen bottom board lives right about here inside the back of the hive, and when you open this drawer, you'll see that I've got a nice oil tray. I'm going to capture anything that falls out of the hive so that I can determine the health and well-being of my bees by looking at the bottom board, but I'll also be able to capture any hive beetles, hive beetle larvae, or anything else that falls through or is chased down through the screen bottom board that is in this hive. Now for the heaters. In the wintertime, I will take this out. No need to have this when you're trying to heat your hives. I will insert this. This is a metal diffuser that I've had made. My buddy's a machinist or a fabricator, and he actually made these for me. And this will slide right in. And down below is where my hive heaters live. Now, this will close the gap when I'm done. And my light bulbs are going to be much, much smaller. I should only use 1 or 2 of these, maybe just 1. With the insulation factor on this hive, I'm not going to need a lot to heat it. Also makes for great storage. That's how I'm going to heat my hives. All right, so it's important to understand that when this is all done and these controller boxes come off of these hives, that they will be going onto this hive. So this will not be a medium super on the top. This will be the actual controller. Okay, so now let's talk about inspections. I built a frame holder directly into the side of this box to hold these oversized frames. And if you notice, I don't have to bend over at all. I'm not reaching down into a small box to get my frames. Everything is waist level. Now, I haven't put foundation in here yet. I don't know whether I'm going to go natural and let the bees build the comb out, or whether or not I'm going to actually put foundation in here, used or new or otherwise. Haven't come to that bridge yet. I'll cross it when I get there, which is going to be soon. But this allows me to actually hang my frames while I'm inspecting the beehive. Now, of course, I'll be standing on that side. I'm doing it this way just so that I can show you, because I don't want to reach across the beehive with bees and get stung. It just wouldn't be good. Anyways, there you go. So now we have a way to actually hang the frames while we're working. All right, well, here you go, my version of Jim's Vino Farm bee barn. I want to thank Jim for, 1, inspiring me to build this, 2, letting me use your likeness in my thumbnail, and 3, letting me open up my video in my virtual Metaverse Vino Farm's bee yard. So thank you for allowing me to use some of the footage and pictures of your bee yard. I greatly appreciate it. And thanks again for inspiring me to build this. It was a very rewarding build, and I think anybody else who wants to build one of these, you're going to be just as rewarded. Now, this is going to keep my bees warm in the winter, cool in the summer, and it's also going to keep the pests out of my hive, specifically the hive beetles and the ants. I think this is going to address those situations very, very well. So I'm very, very happy with the build. I'm happy you came along and watched this video and learned about it. And if you haven't subscribed to Jim over at Vino Farms, and I know you have, if you've seen any bee videos out there at all on YouTube, you've seen some of Jim's at Vino Farms. But if you haven't heard of him, the link is in the description. Go over, subscribe to his channel, watch his videos. He has some great videos. A lot of stories about a lot of bees. You'll get to meet Balboa and Adrian and the rest of them over there. Very, very wonderful. He's been the inspiration for me since I started beekeeping, and he can be the inspiration for you too. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. If you have something to say, by all means, please comment. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell to be notified of my new content. I try to drop a video every Friday. Try to keep it light and have fun here. All that said, be happy, and I will see you next week. Take care.